gunfire exploded all around. Mark threw himself to the ground, feeling the hot, gritty earth burn against his skin. The thunderous roar of helicopters filled the sky, dust swirling around him, blurring his vision. The chaotic symphony of war was deafening, shouts of comrades, the rapid bursts of gunfire, the sharp crack of bullets hitting the dirt like a torrential downpour. Beside him, Rex, his loyal military dog, growled low, his sharp eyes scanning the battlefield with deadly focus. Rex had been with him for years, through every mission, every deadly encounter. He was more than a soldier, he was Mark's brother-in-arms. Then, out of nowhere, a massive explosion ripped through the air. The shockwave slammed into Mark, sending him hurtling backward. His world spun. The sounds of war faded, his body feeling weightless as the darkness swallowed him whole. The last thing he saw before everything went black was Rex's eyes, wide with fear, full of desperate loyalty, never leaving him, even as the world around them crumbled. Mark jerked awake, his body drenched in sweat, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. His hands instinctively clenched into fists, as if still gripping a rifle. But this wasn't the battlefield. It was his cramped, run-down apartment, the pale morning light creeping through the half-open blinds. The echoes of gunfire still rang in his ears, but outside, the world was calm. He groaned, running a hand over his face. 3 years. 3 years since he left the war, yet the war had never left him. It haunted him in his dreams, followed him in the shadows, whispering in his ear whenever the silence grew too loud. Mark reached for a bottle of whiskey on the nightstand, empty. With a frustrated grunt, he tossed it aside, listening to the dull thud as it hit the floor. But no matter how much he drank, there was one wound no amount of alcohol could numb. Rex. The dog who had saved his life countless times. The dog who had fought beside him, bled beside him. The dog who should have been with him even after the war. But when Mark was discharged, he had no choice. Rex was taken from him, forced to serve until his body could no longer keep up. And after that? Mark never knew. Until today. Mark drove aimlessly through a small, forgotten town, the kind of place where time seemed to move slower. He didn't know where he was going, he never did anymore. Then, a sign by the road caught his eye. Animal shelter, give a friend a home today. He barely registered it. But just as he was about to drive past, something made his heart stop. Through the rusted metal fence of the shelter, an old German shepherd lay curled in the corner of a cage, his once strong body thin and frail, his fur patchy and dull. But Mark would recognize those eyes anywhere. Rex. A lump rose in his throat. The proud warrior who had once charged fearlessly through enemy fire now lay abandoned, forgotten. The one who had fought for his country, for his handler, discarded like a broken tool no longer useful. Mark's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His breathing was heavy, uneven. He couldn't just walk away. He had to take Rex home. Mark parked his truck and walked toward the shelter gates, his heart pounding with each step. The place looked run down, rusted fences, peeling paint on the walls, and the faint smell of damp fur in the air. Dogs barked from inside, some eagerly, some desperately. But Mark wasn't looking for just any dog. He was looking for his dog. The woman at the front desk barely looked up from her paperwork. Looking to adopt? She asked. Mark hesitated, his throat dry. There's a dog, a German shepherd. I saw him in the back. The woman sighed and glanced at the clipboard in front of her. We have several. Which one? The old one, Mark said, his voice almost breaking. The one in the farthest cage. The woman's expression changed. She finally looked up, studying him. Ah, you mean Rex. Hearing his name sent a sharp pain through Mark's chest. Rex, he whispered, almost afraid to say it. The woman sighed. He's not in good shape. Old military dog, came in a few months ago. Hardly responds to people. Won't eat much. We don't expect him to last long. Mark felt his blood boil. They had abandoned him. left him to rot after everything he had done. "I want to see him," Mark said, his jaw tight. The woman hesitated but eventually nodded. "Come on, I'll take you." The shelter worker led Mark through a narrow hallway lined with cages. The barking of dogs echoed in the air, but Mark barely noticed. His eyes were locked on one cage at the very end. And there he was. Rex lay curled in the corner, his fur dull, his body thin and frail. His ears didn't perk up at their approach. His tail didn't wag. Mark crouched down, gripping the bars. "Rex, buddy, it's me." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, Rex lifted his head, slowly, painfully. His cloudy eyes met Mark's. But there was no recognition. Mark's stomach twisted. Rex didn't know him. The dog who had once saved his life, the dog who had been his shadow, the dog who had faced gunfire and explosions beside him, did not remember him. Mark swallowed the lump in his throat. "It's me, Rex. It's Mark. We made it, buddy. We're home now." Still, no response. The shelter worker sighed. "I told you. He's not the same anymore." But Mark refused to believe that. "I want to take him home." The shelter worker hesitated. "Are you sure? He's old. He's sick. It's not going to be easy." Mark's jaw tightened. "He wasn't just some dog to me. We fought together. He saved my life. And I won't leave him behind again." After signing some paperwork, the woman led Mark to a side door. A leash was looped loosely around Rex's neck, but the dog barely moved. Mark squatted down, reaching out his hand. "Come on, buddy. Let's go home." "Nothing." The shelter worker sighed. "He doesn't walk much anymore. We usually have to carry him." Mark took a deep breath. "All right, then." He scooped Rex up in his arms, surprised at how light he had become. Once, Rex had been all muscle and strength. Now, he felt fragile, like he might break. As Mark carried him out to the truck, tears burned behind his eyes. "You're coming home, buddy. I promise." Mark drove in silence, the weight of Rex's fragile body resting against his leg. The truck rumbled along the lonely highway, headlights carving a path through the darkness. The night was quiet, but inside, Mark's mind was screaming. Rex, once a warrior, now lay weak, barely moving. How had it come to this? When they reached Mark's small ranch, he carefully lifted Rex into his arms and carried him inside. The house was simple, quiet, too quiet. He placed Rex gently on a soft blanket near the fireplace. "This is home now, buddy," Mark whispered, stroking the German shepherd's thin fur. Rex barely moved. Mark watched him for a long time, waiting for some sign, a tail wag, a spark of recognition. But Rex simply stared at the floor, lost in his own world. Mark clenched his jaw. He wouldn't give up. The next morning, Mark woke up early. He had a mission. He bought the best dog food and vitamins he could find. He set up a comfortable bed next to his own. He even dug out old photos of them together, hoping to spark some memory in Rex. But Rex refused to eat. He lay in the same position all day, barely lifting his head. Mark tried everything, hand-feeding him, warming his food, speaking in the old commands they used in the military. "Come on, Rex. You need to fight. Just like you always did." Nothing. For days, Mark struggled to bring Rex back to life. He carried him outside to feel the sun, spoke to him about old missions, reminded him of who he was. But the light in Rex's eyes remained dim. One evening, as Mark sat next to him, he whispered, "I should have never left you behind." And for the first time, Rex lifted his head and looked at him. It was a small movement, but it was something. The next morning, Mark heard a faint sound. A soft whimper. He turned sharply and saw Rex staring at the door, his ears twitching slightly. Mark's heart leapt. You want to go outside, buddy?" He rushed to open the door, but Rex didn't move. His legs trembled when he tried to stand. Mark knelt beside him, his voice steady but encouraging. "You can do this. I've seen you do the impossible." Rex took a shaky step forward. Then another. It wasn't much. But it was a start. Mark felt tears sting his eyes as he watched his best friend, his brother in arms, try to stand tall once again. That night, something changed. Mark sat beside Rex, flipping through an old photo album. Pictures of them together in the military, training, fighting, surviving. Then, he played a recording. A voice crackled through the speakers, his own voice. "Rex, search. Rex, cover. Good boy, Rex. We made it through." Rex's ears twitched. His eyes flickered toward the sound. And then, his tail moved. Just a little. Mark froze. He remembered. Mark leaned forward, voice breaking. "You remember, don't you, buddy?" And for the first time, Rex licked his hand. A flood of emotion hit Mark like a bullet. Rex wasn't gone. He was still in there. Mark had just found his way back. The next few days felt different. Rex, once lifeless and unresponsive, had begun to change. He started eating more, though Mark still had to encourage him. He stood up on his own more often, even if his legs trembled. And, most importantly, his eyes had started to regain their light. One morning, as Mark stepped outside, coffee in hand, he heard something that made his heart stop. The sound of paws padding against the wooden floor. He turned, and there he was. Rex had followed him outside. The dog stood at the doorway, his body still weak but his spirit awakening. He lifted his head, sniffed the air, and for the first time in years, he wagged his tail. Mark set his coffee down, kneeling beside him. "You're back, buddy." Rex leaned against him, pressing his head into Mark's chest. For the first time in a long time, Mark felt whole again. Mark knew Rex was recovering, but he wasn't done yet. "All right, soldier," Mark said one morning, "time to get back to work." Rex, lying on the porch, tilted his head. Mark reached into his pocket and pulled out a tennis ball. "Think you still got it in you?" For a moment, Rex just stared. Then, something sparked in his eyes. Mark tossed the ball a few feet away. Rex hesitated, ears twitching. Then, he took a step forward. One step. Then two. Then a slow, shaky trot. When he reached the ball, he paused, then picked it up gently in his mouth. Mark let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "That's my boy." Day by day, the training continued. It wasn't about making him a soldier again, it was about making him feel alive. They started with short walks around the ranch. Then, simple commands: sit, stay, come. Then, light agility drills, weaving between cones, climbing over small obstacles. And Rex? He started to love it again. The first time Mark saw him run, really run, across the field, his tail wagging, his body strong, he felt something tighten in his chest. Rex had fought through so much. And he was winning. One afternoon, as Mark and Rex finished a light training session, a loud noise shattered the peace. A gunshot. Not real, just a hunter's rifle echoing through the valley. But Rex froze. His body stiffened, ears flattening against his head. His breath came fast and shallow. Then, he dropped to the ground, shaking. Mark's chest tightened. The war wasn't over for him yet. He knelt beside Rex, placing a hand on his back. "It's okay, buddy. It's over. You're safe." But Rex's body remained locked in fear. This wasn't something Mark could train out of him in a day. It was something they would have to face together. That night, Mark sat with Rex by the fire. The flames flickered in the dimly lit room, casting dancing shadows across the wooden walls. Rex lay with his head on Mark's knee, his breathing slow and steady now. Mark stared into the fire, his fingers absent-mindedly scratching behind Rex's ears. "I get it, buddy," he whispered. "I still hear it too. The explosions. The screams. The nights when we didn't know if we'd make it to morning." His throat tightened. "I know what it's like to wake up and still feel like you're there." Rex's ears flicked, his body pressing closer against Mark's. "But we're here now. You and me. And we made it." For a long moment, they sat there in silence, two broken warriors, healing together. Days turned into weeks, and Rex grew stronger. His body, once frail and weak, filled out with muscle again. His tail wagged more often, and his eyes, once dull and empty, now shone with life. Mark felt something he hadn't in a long time: peace. But peace never lasted. One morning, as Mark prepared breakfast, his phone rang. He frowned. No one ever called him. The number was blocked. Mark hesitated, then answered. "Yeah?" A deep voice responded. "Sergeant Callahan?" Mark froze. It had been years since anyone called him that. "Who is this?" he asked, gripping the phone tightly. "Lieutenant Harris, U.S. Army. We need to talk about Rex." Mark drove to a secluded military base, unease twisting in his gut. When he arrived, a familiar face was waiting for him. Lieutenant Harris, an old officer Mark had worked under, greeted him with a tight nod. His eyes flicked to Rex, who sat in the passenger seat, watching with quiet alertness. "He looks good," Harris said. Mark narrowed his eyes. "Why am I here, Harris?" The lieutenant sighed. "There's a problem. And we need Rex." Mark's stomach dropped. "No. Absolutely not." "Listen to me, Mark," Harris pressed, his tone urgent. "A mission went wrong. A group of soldiers were taken hostage overseas. We believe the enemy is using old military compounds, ones Rex was trained to navigate." Mark's jaw clenched. "You're telling me you need my dog to find them?" "He's the only one with that experience," Harris admitted. "If we don't find those men soon, they'll be executed." Mark looked down at Rex. The German shepherd tilted his head, sensing the tension in the air. They were asking him to send Rex back into war. To risk losing him again. His fists clenched. "No. He's done enough. We both have." That night, Mark sat outside with Rex, staring at the stars. His mind was racing. Could he really just ignore this? Somewhere out there, men just like him, just like Rex, were trapped. Rex, sensing Mark's unease, nudged his arm. Mark sighed. "They want you to go back." Rex blinked. Mark exhaled sharply. "We could stay here. Safe. No more war." Rex stared at him, ears twitching. Then, without warning, he stood up and walked to the truck. Mark's heart pounded. "You want to go?" Rex didn't turn back. He just stood there, waiting. Mark swallowed hard. This wasn't just his decision. It was Rex's too. And Rex had already chosen. 3 days later, Mark and Rex boarded a military transport plane. As they landed at a covert outpost, the tension in the air was thick. Soldiers moved quickly, preparing for the mission. A young officer approached, nodding at Rex. "So this is the legend?" Mark smirked. "He's not a legend. He's just a soldier like the rest of us." The officer grinned. "Then let's go bring our men home." Mark looked down at Rex. The dog stood tall and strong, his body fully healed, his eyes sharp and focused. For the first time in years, they were soldiers again. And this time, they were going in together. The military plane hummed as it flew over enemy territory. Mark sat quietly, his hands gripping the harness strapped across his chest. Across from him, Rex sat just as still, his ears perked, eyes scanning the men around him. A soldier nudged Mark. "First time working with a dog in the field?" Mark smirked. "First time? Kid, I've bled with this dog more times than I can count." The soldier chuckled, but there was respect in his eyes. Then, the red light flashed. "Drop in 60 seconds, the jump master yelled. The team moved into position. Mark crouched near the open hatch, Rex standing beside him. Mark turned to his partner. "You ready, old boy?" Rex stared ahead, tail straight, muscles tense. Mark knew that look. Rex was ready. The light turned green. They jumped. They landed in the dense jungle, rolling as they hit the ground. The team moved fast, securing the area. Mark freed Rex from his harness, giving him a signal. "Scout ahead." Rex took off silently, weaving through the underbrush like a shadow. Minutes later, he returned, ears twitching, tail stiff. Something was ahead. Mark gave the signal, and the team moved forward, weapons raised. As they approached a clearing, Mark saw them, a group of armed men guarding a shack. The prisoners had to be inside. Mark lowered to one knee, placing a hand on Rex's head. "You know what to do, buddy." Rex lowered himself to the ground, body tense, eyes locked on the enemy. Then, Mark whispered the command. "Go." Rex vanished into the shadows. A few minutes later, chaos erupted. A gunshot rang out, a distraction from another squad. The guards turned toward the noise, just as Rex attacked from the opposite side. The German shepherd lunged, sinking his teeth into the first guard's arm, dragging him down. Mark and his team moved in. Gunfire erupted, bullets cutting through the night. Mark saw Rex dodging between gunfire, moving like a ghost in the night. One by one, the enemies fell. And then, the door to the shack burst open. A soldier stumbled out, hands bound, face covered in dirt and blood. They had found the hostages. "Move, move, move." Mark pulled one of the prisoners up, supporting his weight. The others followed, their bodies weak but their eyes full of hope. The enemy reinforcements were closing in. Bullets whizzed past. Mark turned to Rex. "Go. Get them to the extraction point." Rex barked once, then took off, leading the freed soldiers through the jungle. Mark and his team held the line, covering their retreat. Explosions lit up the night. They ran through fire and death, but Rex never stopped moving forward. As the helicopter came into view, Mark felt his chest tighten with relief. The prisoners made it. And Rex? He was right there, waiting for him. Mark jumped onto the helicopter, breathing heavily. He turned to Rex, who locked eyes with him. Mark smiled. "We did it, buddy." And for the first time since the war began, Rex wagged his tail. The helicopter cut through the night, leaving the battlefield behind. Mark sat in silence, exhaustion settling into his bones. Around him, the rescued soldiers sat in stunned relief, some whispering quiet prayers, others too tired to speak. But Mark's eyes were only on one figure, Rex. The German shepherd sat at his feet, his chest rising and falling steadily. Mark reached down, ruffling the fur behind Rex's ears. "We did it, buddy." For the first time in years, Mark felt something he thought he had lost. Purpose. When they landed back at the military base, a crowd was waiting. Cheers erupted as the rescued soldiers stepped off the helicopter, greeted by their comrades and families. Mark stepped down, but before he could move, a voice boomed across the airstrip. "Rex!" Mark turned just in time to see a young soldier sprinting toward them. Rex's ears perked, his body tensed, then, suddenly, he was running. The young man dropped to his knees just as Rex collided into him, licking his face furiously. Mark stared in disbelief. "Who?" The soldier looked up, his eyes shining. "My name's Corporal Davis. I trained Rex before he was assigned to you." Mark blinked, the pieces falling into place. Davis turned to him, his voice thick with emotion. "I thought he was dead." Mark smiled. "He damn near was. But he fought his way back." Davis nodded, still clutching Rex. "Thank you for bringing him home." Mark looked down at Rex, who now had 2 soldiers who loved him. And for the first time, he realized, maybe Rex had more than one home. That night, Mark sat alone, staring out at the desert horizon. Rex lay beside him, silent, content. Mark knew what he had to do. "You belong here, don't you, buddy?" he murmured. Rex lifted his head, ears twitching. Mark let out a breath. "Davis is a good man. He was your first handler. Maybe." He swallowed hard. "Maybe it's time you go home with him." Rex didn't move, just stared at him with those deep, knowing eyes. Mark's chest tightened. He had spent years trying to bring Rex home. And now, he was realizing, home wasn't just one place. The next morning, Mark met Davis by the airstrip. The young soldier looked nervous. "Are you sure about this?" Mark nodded, though his heart ached. Rex deserves a place where he can just be a dog again. Davis crouched down, rubbing Rex's fur. "I promise I'll take care of him." Mark kneeled beside them, placing a hand on Rex's head. "You saved me more times than I can count, buddy. You deserve this." Rex stared at him. Then, slowly, he licked Mark's hand. Mark let out a shaky breath. "Go on, pal." Rex turned, and walked with Davis toward their new future. Mark watched until they were gone. And then, for the first time in years, he let himself cry. Not from pain. Not from loss. But because, for the first time in a long time, everything felt right.